Alright YouTubers, welcome back. I am Crank Addict and this is a channel for crank addicts like me and hopefully like you. Today we're going to start working on those two 454 engines in this Chris Craft Commander. I wasn't planning on starting it quite so early, but we're having a little bit of delay in getting the holding tank ready. So we'll just work around the big hole in the bottom of the boat for now. So we got two engines, unknown condition. Are they going to start? Let's hit them. Okay, while my wife is making sanding noises upstairs, let's check out this 454 here. Supposedly it has zero compression and it needs to be replaced, but I'm not convinced. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the spark plugs, all 8 spark plugs, and then we're going to try to turn the engine over by hand and see how it feels. Yeah, it's a lot of fun working in a boat. These engines supposedly have not run in somewhere between 5 and 10 years. Oh, it's kind of oily. What do you say it's oil? And when I went to go talk to the marina manager, she said the previous owner was planning on pulling out both engines and putting in electric motors. Oh boy, that made me laugh. You have to have some pretty big electric motors to push this Chris Craft down the lake. A little bit oily. Alright, so all 8 plugs are out. Let's put a wrench on the crank pulley. Boy, that is a little tighter than I would expect it to be. One thing I'm seeing right now is this pulley here is not spinning at all. I don't know if this thing is locked up or what. So I want to try to loosen it up a little bit and see if I can pull the belt off and see what's going on with this. Is that the water pump? Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, that's the water pump, the impeller for the lake water. Got the belt pulled off. That does not feel good. That's really tight. I'm not sure how tight that's supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off the other belt on the other engine and compare them. It might have just been freshly rebuilt. These pumps have these little silicone squeegees that spin around in a circle, and I can see how if it was freshly rebuilt with brand new squeegees it might be a little tight. I don't think it was ever that tight on my old wake setter with the 350 engine. But yeah, let's check out the other one, we'll see. Alright, well the impeller on the other engine is just as tight as this one. And everything looks pretty clean here, so maybe someone just rebuilt them at some point. We've got all new hoses on this engine, so it's very possible they just went ahead and rebuilt it. Okay, but with that off, let's try that crank again, see if it makes any difference. Man, it's still pretty snug. A little bit on the snug side. Okay. I wish I had a scope so I could look inside and see what was going on. But at this point, I say let's check the compression and see what shows up. Okay, well, in order to get an accurate measurement of the cranking compression, you need to open up the butterflies on the carburetor. On a boat, that's easy to do. You just take the throttle and just mash it forward. There's no springs, they'll stay open. But you still have to wire the choke open as well, so there's no restriction. I decided to just go ahead and remove the carburetor top. I was going to do that anyway to see if there's any kind of crud inside the carburetor. I want to see what kind of condition it's in. And so let's have a little peek here. Well, I decided to remove the whole carburetor. Oh man, but I think they glued it to the gasket. Ah, what a mess. There we go. Oh goodness. I don't know. Did they glue that or not? That sure is a sticky gasket. So I'll have to make a note on my list to replace that gasket. But I thought it'd be easier just to pull the whole carb off instead of messing with the gaskets. So I don't know. But now, hey, no restriction. No restriction for the compression test. Airflow can go right down in here. We got this bump starter hooked up. I don't know if we have power or not. Let's hit the button and see what happens here. All right. I don't know if you guys can see the gauge here. Yeah, zero compression. What the heck? I mean, it doesn't even move. How is that possible? It doesn't even move the needle. Goodness. Let me make sure everything's moving here. That is crazy. Zero compression. Let's do this again. Oh, there we go. Well, I bumped up to about 45 once. Let's try some other cylinders. That's a little discouraging. A little bit discouraging. Oh, goodness. All right, here we go again. Well, I had one hit up to 90 psi there. And that seems to be about it on that one. So 45, 90. All right, got about 120 out of that one. Let's try this back one. So number 8. Got about 100 or so. One. About 105. Yeah, got up to about 75. Let's try it again. 5. About 80. About 90. All right. So, the next step is I am going to put some oil in each cylinder, and we're going to try the compression test again. The idea is if the rings are bad, then the oil will seal the rings and the compression will go up. If the valves are bad, bent valve, or they're just not sealing well, then the oil is not going to make much difference. If there's a problem with the camshaft, the oil is not going to make much difference in there either. So let's go get some oil. I put a little bit of this Marble Mystery Oil, 3 cc's, into each of the cylinders that were reading a little bit low, and it's been about 20 minutes. I've rotated the engine one whole revolution, so let's put this compression tester back in and we'll see if it makes any difference here. Now, this is the number 2 cylinder. This is the one that only read 45 psi the first time. Whoa, jumped up to 90. Nice. Let's do that again. You may not do it the second time though. Oh, darn close, 85. Wow, that made a big difference. Alright, so that's telling me that the rings are not sealing very well right now. Why that is, I'm not sure. Could be worn rings, or there could be rust in the cylinders from it sitting around for so long. Now, if it's just a little bit of surface rust, then once we get this thing fired up and running, a lot of times that rust will kind of work itself out. This was 75 before. Oh, about 80. Not a whole lot of difference. Let's try it again. Same, 80. Alright, well, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, at 80 psi, this thing should fire. So I don't think there's any kind of thing seriously wrong with the engine. It's just a matter of getting it to start and run. So, next thing I want to do, I want to verify top dead cylinder and double check the spark plug. Hey, I got some oil dripping out of the rockers here, so that's a good sign. Looks like the oil's been changed recently. Well, not recently, but the oil has very few miles on it. Let's just say it that way. It may be 10 years old, but it has very few miles on it. pulling off the valve cover, which has no gaskets. Previous owner stole my gaskets. Because I need to look at these rocker arms over here. What is weird is that there are the what do you call it? Push rod guide plates are made by Competition Cams. Weird, huh? Okay. Alright, so I need to make sure the distributor is in the right position, so I need to watch my valves on my number one cylinder. You're going to see the exhaust valve open, then the intake valve open, and then we'll be at top dead center after that. So let's watch here. Here's your exhaust. Whoa. Open there. So now both of these are closed. And top dead center should be coming up real quick. That was fast. Let me get my wrench. Okay, it's a little noisy down here in the engine room because I've got the bilge blower going right now because I'm about to test for a spark. And although this has been opened up, you should always, make sure your bilge fan runs for a few minutes before you crank it open. So, we got power up on top. I got this engine energized, supposedly. At least according to the key it does. So, let's ground out the spark plug and see if I've got spark or not. Here we go. Oh, beautiful, beautiful bright spark. So, spark is good. So I'll put this bad boy back in. And next, we need to work on that carburetor. I think my light's dead. Okay, so I got the Rochester carburetor apart. At least the top is removed and the bottom base. And it's not actually that dirty inside. I was expecting it to be horribly gummed up. There goes my light. Oh. But what's interesting is this thing smells more like carb cleaner than gasoline. So that might be an issue. I'm not sure if that's the condition of the fuel in the fuel tank or if they're just trying to clean it out by squirting carb cleaner down the bowls or something. But yeah, I need to order some new gaskets, put this thing back together, and then try to get this thing some fresh gas. Well, before we fire this thing up, we need to make sure that the distributor is set at the correct initial advance. Okay, this engine calls for 8 degrees before top dead center. So, like I said, I've got my number one cylinder here all the way up. My rocker arms are loose. And my timing pointer is pointing at 8 degrees. This is my number one spark plug wire. So I have made a mark on the distributor, and I put another mark down here on my, I put a mark on my distributor, and I put another mark on my distributor cap. So I can rotate this around until we're in just the right spot. Okay, so right there is where this distributor needs to be adjusted to for the 8 degrees before top dead center. It's an estimate, you might be a little bit off. It might be 4, it might be 10, but it's close enough to get the engine running. And of course, once the engine is running, you can always get your timing light and dial it in just right for you. So I'm gonna bolt this thing back together, and let's see if we can fire this thing up. Okay guys, well I think we're ready to try to start this engine. Okay, I got the valve covers on, which was a royal pain in the butt with the manifold risers. Wow, That was really tough. Got the rebuilt carb on there. I've got some fresh gas going to the carb. And I've got jet gas coming out of the squirters on the accelerator pump. So all we can do is just turn the key and see what happens. All right, let's go and turn it on. All right, and crank it. Hang on a sec, let me get some more gas. All right, go for it.
Want to do it again?
Yes, do it again.
Okay.
All right, let's try it again. Hang on a sec. Well, we had a few starting issues. The previous owner did some funky stuff with the wiring back there, but I went online and figured it out a little bit. I don't know about the starboard engine yet. Running, I say, this auxiliary fuel tank up here through a cheapo pump that should get just enough pressure to the carb to keep it going. Ignition is set at 8 degrees before top dead center. Got my rebuilt carburetor on there, scrubbed as clean as humanly possible. So let's turn on this port engine. Let's see how it does. Yeah, key on, ignition on, and starter. Okay, this thing's running. I've got a pretty bad water leak back here on one of the exhaust manifolds, but then this thing is running, so does not need a complete rebuild. I'm going to go ahead and try to fix this water leak, and then we'll let this thing run a little bit longer. The impellers are certainly pumping water, that's for sure, and then we'll try to work on this other engine. For grins, I've hooked up the carburetor to the gas tank on the boat. We've got some old gasoline here. How old? I don't know. Could be 5 years, could be 10 years old. But we're going to see if this little engine will run on that old gasoline. So, let me run up on top, and we'll fire it up, and we'll see how it does. Okay, well that was odd. It was making a lot of noises there, like it was detonating or something. Maybe it is, but I mean, it's not even at load. It's just running at 1,500 RPMs or so. But I guess if the gas is that old, maybe it will do that. So probably don't want to run that down the lake. What I'm going to do, I got some of the super concentrated PRI-G gasoline treatment. This stuff is supposed to be the best stuff out there. They actually sell this stuff to refineries and stuff. So I've seen some crazy things on the internet. So Let's see how it does. This bottle treats 512 gallons. Someone split about half and half between the two tanks. We'll see how it does. Alright, so we're going to let that stuff soak in overnight, and we'll come back again tomorrow and see if it runs any better on this PRI-G fuel treatment. So we let that PRI-G fuel conditioner soak in all night long. It's been probably over 24 hours, maybe 26 hours now. And check this out. Hit it! Bam! There we go. Purrs like a kitten. This is not the first time we started. This is the third time, I believe. The first time we had to get some of the old gas out of the line. But once we got some of the main fuel up into the carburetor, it smoothed out. It was great. 5 to 10-year-old gasoline is now running this 454 Chevy. Anyway, we are having some issues still with this starboard engine over here. We're having issues getting 12 volts down to the distributor. It reads 12 volts, but as soon as you hook up the distributor, it drops. So that's not right. I mean, it's like 12 volts in theory only. There is zero current available to that. So we're trying to work around it, trying to figure out how to get 12 volts down here reliably. And we need a new starter solenoid as well. We need to find one that has a chassis ground and not a separate ground on it. And then we're going to try to fire this one here up. So stay tuned.